Hi, this is Jana Whitley. I'm the author of the Cuddly Cacti Crochet pattern book that you see here and by Thunder Bay Press. And in this video I'm going to be demonstrating how to make the pattern called Moon Cactus. That's on page 36 of the book, and this will be what your finished product should look like. So let's get started. You'll need your book, of course, and from the kit you've got your stuffing, and you want your red yarn, the terracotta or rust colored yarn, this dark green yarn, and the dark brown yarn. You'll also want to use the hook. This is size E, which is 3.5 millimeter, and I'm going to actually be using my Clover comfort grip hook. That's what I prefer because it's a little more comfortable. You'll want the 6 millimeter eyes that are included with the kit. There's 2 of those and 2 white washers to go on the backs, and some black embroidery floss and the needle. And then you'll need to provide your own scissors and possibly some pins when you're sewing things together. I use these large headed pins. I got them from Joann's Crafts. Alright. Other helpful things is if you've got a bowl. I like to use this for putting the yarn in while I'm crocheting so it doesn't roll anywhere. You'll want something to mark your stitches with. My preference is just to use a piece of contrasting yarn about 3 inches long, but you can also use safety pins or a paper clip or plastic stitch markers that you buy from the store. Alright, so we will start going through in order the instructions. The first part we will make is the red top cactus. So you'll want to unwind. Your yarn will come in a little skein like this. You'll want to untwist it and wind it into a ball. And okay, and now I'm ready to go with my yarn. So what I want to do first is I want to start with a slip knot. Now in crochet instructions they never tell you to start with a slip knot because they just always assume that you know that that's what you'll start with when you're doing a chain. Sometimes it might tell you to start with a magic loop instead, but so whenever they say to start chaining, they just assume that you're going to start with a slip knot. So this is how you make a slip knot. You're going to take, I'm going to take about 4 inches of the end, and I'm going to call that the tail. And then the working yarn is the yarn that's coming from the ball of yarn. So I take the tail in my left hand, my non-dominant hand. I take the working yarn in my dominant hand. I'm going to take the working yarn, loop it over the tail so that it makes a loop that comes over. And then I'm going to take my hook, put it through the loop, and then I'm going to bring, so I'm going to bring, and then I'm going to grab the working yarn, bring in, so you see it forms kind of a pretzel. I'm going to pull it up through, so you have to go in that loop, grab the yarn, and then you're going to make another loop, pull it up through, and I'm grabbing the tail and the working end together with the left hand, and I pull those tight, and it makes the slip knot there. And then I want to pull the working yarn so that it snugs it up onto the hook. And there's my slip knot. And you can tell it's a slip knot because what happens is if you pull on the ends, it pops out. So again, make a loop, go through the loop, grab the yarn, pull it through like so. All right, now we're going to start with the foundation chain. This is FC, and with red chain 12. So chaining. Let's see. Now, if you're just beginning, I'm going to explain how to hold your, how to feed the yarn to the hook using your non-dominant hand. So I'm right-handed. I'm going to take my left hand, and this is how I like to do it. I put the working yarn through the pinky finger. I come under the pinky finger and around the back of my fingers, and I let it run over my first finger like so. And then I'm going to grasp the slip knot with my middle finger and thumb and hold it there, so right where the hook is. So with my pinky, I'm able to use my pinky to start and stop the release of the yarn. So I can tension the yarn as I'm using it here, and then I'll feed a little bit, loosen it up, feed a little bit through for the next stitch, like so. And then I open it up like so. Now, while the pinky is doing that, your first finger will also be creating tension by pointing. It'll be pulling away from the hook this way. So the hook, when you pull your yarn, the hook is going to be pulling your yarn this way. This finger is going to be tugging it that way. So by having tension in both directions, you can adjust the size of the loop. So if I pull it this way, I get a larger loop. If I pull it this way, I get a smaller loop. Also, as I chain with this left hand, is also going to be moving up the chain so that I'm always holding the work right by the hook, because I don't want to if I just hold it there, it's going to start moving and then it's going to get too long. So I'm always, as I'm chaining, I'm always kind of inching my fingers, my thumb and middle finger, inching them up and adjusting them so they're just right underneath the hook. So that's what the left hand is doing. There's a lot going on with that left hand, and it's going to take it might take some practice to kind of get those little finger movements down. Now with the right hand, I hold my hook like a pencil. I mean, there's other ways to do it, but this is how I do it. And what I'm going to do is do what's called a yarn over. And my method is, this is the way I learned. I take my hook, I swing it underneath the yarn, so that if the yarn is between these two fingers, so I have this space here. So I swing it underneath, and then I slide the shaft along there so that the hook will grab that twist, and then I'm going to pop it through that loop, and then it makes a chain. And the key is managing the tension, so that if you don't want it, so you don't want this is called the working loop, the ones that whatever your last loop on the hook after creating a stitch is called the working loop. And you want to keep it just the right tension so that it's not too tight, because you don't want to have to wrestle that yarn over through. It should be able to just pop through with just the smallest bit of a tug. And also, you don't want it too loose, because if you have really loose tension, that doesn't work for amigurumi, because then the stuffing will show through the stitches. If you're new, then take some time to practice doing a chain, so until you get your tension very uniform and your stitches look very uniform, and probably as small as you can get them while still being able to easily put the head through that working loop. So again, so you start with the slip knot, and you yarn over. This is a chain stitch, and then you slide it through pull it through, and you kind of give it a little, see I'm giving a little twist as I go, kind of turning that hook. The hook is facing down, and then it kind of give it a little twist. I'm not sure what exactly that does, but it kind of helps you finish and go to the next stitch. I also like to use my middle finger of my right hand to place it behind the working loop, and this helps me kind of feel and guide that hook through that loop. Okay, so that's the basics. So let's get started with the pattern itself. And if you need more help with those basics, if you think, you know what, I'm just not getting it, your video isn't quite explaining it right, I would recommend going onto YouTube, do a search for, you know, chain stitch and tutorials, and see if you can, or how to crochet, and there'll be other people who will have there's lots of videos that break it down and explain it in different ways, and then if you're left-handed, you can find left-handed tutorial videos also. So use your internet resources, and there's lots of other people out there who are making super helpful videos. Okay, so I'm going to chain 12. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then it's a good idea to always, when you get to the end of a row of instructions, to count and see if you've got the right stitch count. So I took my hook out, and the working loop is going to count as 0. We don't count that in our stitch count. So the one right after it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and there's the slip knot. So you have 12. So next we are going to do row 1. We're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Single crochet in the next 10 chains for a total of 11 stitches, and then chain 1 and turn. So I'm going to show you how to do the single crochet. So it says we're going to start in the second chain from the hook. So again, we don't count this. This is 0, the working loop. So the next one would be the second chain from the hook. I'm going to insert the hook right in the middle of that V so that it comes out the top loop, like so. Just like that. Then I'm going to yarn over, pull it through just the chain, not the working loop. So now I have 2 loops on my hook. And this is what, excuse me, then we're going to yarn over again. I'm going to pull it through both loops on the hook, and that's the end of, that finishes that single crochet. So I'm going to do that again in the next chain. So find the next chain, it's the next V, put the hook through, yarn over, pull through the chain. I've got 2 on the hook, yarn over, pull through both, and I've finished my next single crochet. Again, you're going to go through the next chain, yarn over, pull through the chain, 2 on the hook, yarn over, pull through both loops, single crochet complete. And you'll see now there's on the top, you'll see more V shapes. So 1, 2, 3, because I made 3 single crochets. On the side, you'll see 1, 2, 3 V's, or kind of like little heart shapes. And that's the front, or this is the right side of the crochet. If I turn it this way, flop it over, you will see the wrong side of the crochet, and you can tell it's the wrong side when you see these little crossbars on top of 2 little legs. And it kind of looks like the symbol for pi, or 3.14. So there's the wrong side. Let's go back to the right side, and we're going to keep continuing to do single crochet in each of those chains, making sure not to skip any chains, and also making sure not to put 2 single crochets into one chain. You don't want to add extra by accident. And as I go, I like to kind of flatten out the stitches, set them in shape, because otherwise it tends to want to curl up a lot and just kind of gets in the way if it's curly. All right, and we come to the last one, which is right before the slip knot. And that should be 11 stitches. Let's count. So again, the working loop is 0. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's 11, like the instructions call for. I'm going to chain 1. So yarn over, just pull through that loop, and then turn. To turn, we just simply flop it over, twist it that way, so that you can see the wrong side of stitches. Now either way you flop it is fine, just be consistent as you go. Just always flop it the same way. So I'm going to, for rows 2 through 19, or in other words, the next 18 rows, I'm going to go in the back loops only, and I'm going to single crochet 11. So now I want to make sure that my first single crochet, I don't want to put it in the chain. I want to put it in that V, or there's the single crochet at the V, but we're not going to, normally you would always go under both loops, like so. So if it's not specified, you always go under both loops. However, in this pattern, I'm specifying that you're using the back loop only, so which means you're going to insert your hook into that V, like you did with the chain, and catch the back loop, and then you're going to make your single crochet. So you yarn over, pull through that loop, 2 on the hook, yarn over, pull through both on the hook. So again, go through that back loop by pushing it into the V and catching the back loop, and pull through the loop with 2 on the hook, then pull through both. And then continue on down that row, always going in just the back loops, like so. And what that's going to do by using just the back loops is that leaves the front loops unused, and it creates a line of front loops. And we want these lines for this pattern. I want the lines because they're going to create kind of a ribbed effect that create the edges of the moon cactus. All right, so let's keep going. All right, and so we go to the last one. You can see the last one's right there. I'm going to push it through that back loop. All right, and we're going to count, make sure we got the right amount. So there's 0 for the working loop, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stitches. Okay, so we're ready to chain 1 and turn. And just as the instructions say, we're going to repeat that same row until we have a total of 19 rows. So again, we're not gonna try to insert it into that chain. That's a chain right there. We're gonna insert in the back loop only of that single crochet, and keep going. All right, got to the end, and there it is. And I'm going to chain, and then of course I want to count, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, and then we want to chain 1, turn. We're going to keep going, just back and forth like that. Now I'm going to skip. I'm going to pause and then finish that, because it's just, otherwise you'd just be watching me do the same thing over and over for probably about 15 minutes. So I'm just going to pause, and then I will come back at when I get to the end of row 19. Okay, now I finished rows 1 through 19 of the top of the cactus, and you can see it's kind of this stretchy ribbed material because I worked in back loops only for the whole thing. Okay, now we're ready to make a tube. We're going to bring this is the end that has a slip knot, so we're going to bring that slip knot up by the working loop, bring it behind, and there's my chain that I made. Now I'm going to slip stitch across in both of these rows to kind of sew them together. So in the back loops only of row 19 and the remaining loops of the foundation chain, I'm going to slip stitch in the next 11 stitches to form a tube. So this is how this is going to look. I'm going to go insert my hook in the back loop of that single crochet, and then I'm going to find that slip stitch where slip knot right there, and I'm going to go into that first chain by the slip knot. And for the slip stitch, what I do for that is I simply yarn over, and I'm going to pull it through all the loops on the hook like that, and that's it. I'll show you that again. So I'm going to go through that back loop of row 19, and then the next chain. So I've got basically 3 loops on the hook. For the slip stitch, I'm going to yarn over and pull through all those loops. So again, back loop and chain together, or sorry, back loop and insert through the chain, yarn over, pull through all the loops, and see, the slip stitching is going to make a very flat seam across there. And we just keep continuing along, making sure not to skip any chains or single crochets, so that they will be evenly matched when we get to the end. And if you happen to do 12 instead of 11 right here, that's okay too, as long as they just match up on the ends. Okay, you're almost to the end of that. I mean, alternatively, you could sew this with a needle and some yarn, but I just find it faster and more stretchy to do it with the crochet. So there we are. Now we're going to fasten off with a 12-inch tail. So here's the working loop. We're going to grab the scissors. Gonna cut about 12 inches, like so. Now, with that hook in the working loop, we're just going to pull it till the working loop gets bigger and bigger until it pops through, and now crochet will not come unraveled. All right, now the fun part. We've got this tube, and it says we're going to take the needle, make a running stitch in the ends of the rows on one side. Now, so this is, if you want, you can turn it to the other side so that the seam is on the inside, but there we go. I'm not sure. It's not really, the seam's not really visible. Well, let's see, whatever looks better. I think maybe actually the seam on the outside will look better because it looks like a rib, and if you turn it that way, looks like they're missing a rib there. So you just leave it like that, I guess. Okay, let's grab a needle, and you can use the kit needle. And the rule of needles, I always tell this when I was teaching my children to sew. The rule about needles is always don't ever just set your needle down, right? Because especially the sharp ones, because you don't want to end up finding it with your foot, your bare foot. So always secure your needle when you set it down. Put it somewhere secure, like a pin cushion or on a magnet perhaps. Okay, so there you go. Now I've got the needle, I've overlapped the tail about 4 or 5 inches, and I am going to start up here. I'm going to do a running stitch, which is just to insert it into the ends of the rows, and then kind of work back and forth, just catching a bit of the ends of the rows. I can do probably about 3 at a time as I go, and just weaving it like so. In the book, you'll see I've used white yarn in the picture just to make it easy to look and say, oh look, there's the running stitch. But here I'm doing it with red, of course, because we don't want it to be showing up. Okay, and we are back at the seam where we started. I can tell because I've got my tail down there. And pull it through there, and now we cinch it by pulling that working yarn and kind of squeeze the end together like so. Okay, now I want to secure it. What I'll do is do an overhand knot. Okay, by putting it through the yarn. Okay, oops, there we go. Okay, so there's a loop. For the overhand knot, we just put the yarn through the loop and tug it like that. And if there's a little bit left, that's okay. One end will be not showing because it'll be on top of the green bit. So whichever end is most attractive, you can put that one face up. Okay, now I'll just hide the. I'm going to bring the yarn inside. Like so, and I'll just cut it off with a couple inches and just hide that tail inside. Alright, so there's one end. Now, for the other end, is that going to be enough yarn? Probably. I'll just go ahead and anchor it to the other side by a quick overhand knot. So I'll leave a little tail there and come through again, leave a loop, come through the loop, pull until it's a knot. So I've secured that, and now again I'm going to do the running stitch. So I'm going to go along these tops of the rows. Oops, maybe I didn't leave enough yarn because it popped off the needle there. All right. I hope I'm getting this in camera. All right, we're back to the beginning. And now before you pull it closed, we need to stuff it. So there's a hole, right? You can also stuff it before you put the running stitch in, but and either way works. That's how I'm going to grab that stuffing. And there we go. And make sure you're not getting the needle and the tail inside there while you're stuffing it. And so when I stuff, I like to kind of put my finger in and kind of hook and push it into all the corners and cracks. Make sure it's getting evenly filled up. Okay, all right. Okay. All right. And you can decide how much you want it stuffed. I'm going to do it about medium firmness. You can, if you stuff it super firm, you might end up having some of that stuffing showing through the, it might expand it so much that it stretches out and you might see the white bits. So, you know, maybe stuff it just till it's firm enough that it's firm, a little firm, but not showing any gaps. So now I'm going to cinch this yarn up, and all right, and I'm going to kind of hold that together while I secure it with a quick couple of stitches. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, the last thing I want to do, I don't want to fasten off just yet, but I want to take the yarn and go down through the middle, down through the center, and through to the other side. Okay. And then pull it snug because I want it to create a dimple, like so. That's another reason you don't want to do it super firm, because then you won't have enough. You want it to have a little bit of softness to create that little dimple. Okay, after you got it there, you're going to keep it tight while you secure it on this side, like so. And it looks kind of like a pumpkin, doesn't it? In fact, you could use this pattern. Here's a tip. Since it's October, Halloween season, you could use the same pattern to make little pumpkins out of orange yarn. And you can make a moon cactus with orange tops, or you can just make little pumpkins to decorate with, or give to your friends. So there we go. I just did an overhand knot to secure that, and I'm going to leave this tail so that I can sew it to the top of my green stalk. And then with these guys, what I'll want to do is take the needle and just hide those ends by threading them through the middle of the pumpkin and then trimming them off like so. It's close to the work, but make sure you're always kind of pulling it taut and not cutting into your stitches, because that would be a tragedy if you cut through your stitches and that would start to unravel. This one's a little too short for a needle, so I'm just going to take my hook and see that, there's my hook. I'm going to just grab that little inch of yarn and just pull it in to hide it. Hope that works out nicely. Come on, get in there. Okay. All right. All right, so there's the top of the moon cactus, and there's the bottom with my tail coming out. All right, so we're done with that bit. We're going to set that aside. Let me take a little pause, and we'll get back, and then we'll come back and start the stalk. Okay, here I am back, and now, okay, we're going to use this dark green yarn to make our stalk. Let me show you how to make a ball of yarn. I didn't do that at the beginning, but you're going to unwind it like so, and as you untwist it, you'll see a part that's been tied together. So grab that and pull it, and that's going to create a loop like so. So I like to make a ball because if you're trying to pull it off of here, it probably will just get tangled and drive you nuts. So what you need to do is find the little cut end bit, and I just thought I saw it a second ago. There we go. See there, there's the cut end. And then you're going to, it's kind of just a little half hitch, I guess is what the nautical term would be. And then unwind that. Alright, so, and here's how I like to make my ball of yarn. If you have a yarn winder, then you're a lucky person, but I just put it on my fingers like so, and I wind it around my left hand until my fingers turn purple, and then I pull it off. and pinch it together like so. And then I'm going to go the other direction, or yeah, turn it, half turn, and go around it this way, and just keep winding until it turns into a ball. Okay. Okay, so here we are with our green yarn, and we're going to start with the slip knot. So again, we're going to put the tail in the left hand, bring the working yarn over to make a loop, and instead of the hook, if you want, you can just push the working yarn through that loop and pull it, and that also makes a slip knot like so. And then you can pop your hook in there, tug on the working yarn, snug it up. Okay, so we got our slip knot, and we are going to chain 2. And there we go, 1 and 2. Now you could also, in the instructions, it says you can also start with the magic loop and then single crochet 6 into that. So a magic loop is a little more advanced, and if you want to look up tutorials on there's a great website called planetjune.com, PLANETJUNE, and she does great tutorials on very specialized amigurumi stitches, including the magic loop. But the regular chain will work just fine. So we got 2 chains. We're gonna do single crochet 6 in the second chain from the hook. So again, this is the 0, the working loop, and then we've got 1 and 2. So we're gonna take that hook, we're gonna put it into that second chain from the hook, or in other words, the one right by the slip knot. We're going to grab that yarn, pull it through the chain. We'll have 2 on the hook. Grab yarn over again, pull it through both. And there's our single crochet number 1. Then we're going to insert that hook into the same chain again. Yarn over, pull through that chain, 2 on the hook. Yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. There's our second single crochet. Okay, we'll make a third one again, and inserting that hook in the same chain again. Make a single crochet. There's 1, 2, 3. And again, for the fourth, we're going to put it through that chain. Make our single crochet. There's 4. And there's, oops, yeah, I hate it when the yarn splits. And there's 5, and there's 6. So we've got 6 single crochet into 1 chain. And what it does is forms a circle. And there's a little bit of a donut hole there, but you have to worry about that because eventually this one will go on top of it and you won't see the hole. So normally I don't like having the hole, and that's why I like using the magic loop, is because you can cinch up that hole. But for these purposes, we're not going to worry about it. Now, at this point, you will want to use a stitch marker. And look at that, I broke my own rule about securing a needle. Let that be a lesson to me. Okay, so I'm going to secure it there. This is my stitch marker. So this is how I do my stitch markers. I find it very fast and easy. You always want to use yarn of the same width, of the same thickness. You're going to fold it over the last stitch in the round. So it comes from, this is how it's folded over, kind of underneath the hook. Okay, and you're kind of hold that in place while you do your next stitch. Which is, so if you count, see, here's 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th one is where we want to do our next stitch, and going through both loops. Remember, so you don't want to catch just the back loop, you don't want to catch just the front loop, you want both loops. And you're gonna yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through to make a single crochet, and that holds your stitch marker in place. Now we are going to be doing 2 single crochets in each single crochet in this round. So you go through that same stitch again, both loops, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So now I have 2 single crochets in the stitch beneath it. That's called an increase. We're going to do that all the way around so that we go from 6 stitches, and then the second round there will be 12 stitches, because 6 times 2 is 12. So again, the next stitch, we're going to go through under both loops, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and then to increase, we're going to go in the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, and there it is. So now we've got those 2 stitches there. Move to the next single crochet, put your hook under both, yarn over, pull through the stitch, 2 on the hook, yarn over, pull through both, okay, and then again in the same stitch under both loops, yarn over, pull through, 2 on the hook, yarn over, pull through both. Okay, now next stitch, we're going to do another increase there, and next stitch, another increase, and you'll see that we're to the last one before the stitch marker that tells us we're to the end of the round. Okay, so notice it's like a snail shell, like a spiral snail's shell, where we had we started with 6, now we have 12, and we're not joining the rounds. So some patterns will tell you to join rounds, but most amigurumis, they do not have you join rounds because it creates kind of a visible line in the work. But that's why we have to use a stitch marker, so that it's continuous rounds without a join. So we're going to count, make sure we've got 12. So I'm taking my hook out of the working loop. I'm going to count. So this is 0, and then we go 1, 2, 3. Oops, let me get this guy over the way. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, it's important to get your stitch count accurate because there's some math as we go, and we don't want to mess up the math. So we're going to move the stitch marker up. So pull it out, fold it over the last single crochet, and then this time we are on round 3. We're going to single crochet in each single crochet round. So this one doesn't have any increases. We're just simply going to go under both loops, grab the yarn, pull it through the stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through both, move to the next one, and then go under both loops and keep going around, easy peasy, just making sure you don't accidentally miss any stitches or accidentally increase. And it's going to make kind of a thimble shape, and it's going to curl. It should curl so that, I like to put my finger in so that it's going to curl with I want the right side of the stitches out. Because sometimes it'll want to do this, and that means if your working loop is farther away from you, that means that it's wrong side out. So you want to turn your work so that your working loop is closer to you on the edge of the circle. So yeah, I like just make sure you've always got your right side of your stitches facing outward when you're making stuff in the round. It doesn't, right side and wrong side don't matter when you're doing like a flat work, like we did with that rectangle like this, but it does matter when you're working in spiral rounds. Okay, so that is 12. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then you'll see when we get to the last one, it kind of jumps up to the working loop. All right, now round 4, we're going to do some increasing. It says it has a little star or an asterisk, and it says single crochet 2 in the next single crochet in the next single crochet, and then a star, and then repeat 6 times for a total 24 stitches. So we have a repeating pattern, and this is how it works. So we're going to single crochet, we're going to put our hook under the next single crochet. Now make sure you don't, one thing I used to always do was I would put it back into the same loop under the stitch marker, and then I would end up with too many. So make sure you're going into the next stitch. You are going to single crochet 1 and then 2 in that same stitch. So you're doing an increase in the first stitch. See, it's those 2, and then we're going to go to the next stitch and do only 1. So we've done 3. And then we go to the next stitch, and then we do 2 again for the increase. And then in that 4th stitch, we're doing 1, So we're just repeating that pattern. So there's an increase, and then a singleton in that one, and then an increase. So 1, 2 in the same stitch, and then the next one is only going to have one single crochet in that stitch, and then just that repeats. And so what ends up happening is we had 12 beneath, 12 in the row below, and we are adding every other one. So we're still increasing by 6. So we're going from 12 to 18. If you lose count, you can kind of look and see where you are at, and kind of stretch and say, okay, there's an increase there. So my next one is going to be single, and then we get to the end and we do our last repeat, and then we can count, make sure we've got 18. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Very good. All right, so the next is going to be round 5. It's another pattern. So with a star, it says single crochet 2 in the next single crochet in the next 2 single crochets, star. Repeat 6 times for a total of 24 stitches. So again, we're adding 6. We're going to increase by 6 at regular intervals and going from 18 to 24. So in the next stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets in that next stitch, and then we're going to do just a single crochet, and then go to the next one and do a single crochet. So we've made 4 in the pattern in the 3 below it, and then we're repeating the pattern by going 2 single crochets, and then just 1, and then just 1. Okay, and then we're going to keep doing that. So we're going to increase, and then 1, and then 1, and then increase, and 1, and 1, and then increase, and then 1, and 1. And so now we have 3 stitches left, those 3 V's, and that's going to finish up our last repeat. And then we do an increase, and then 1, and 1. Okay, and there's our stitch marker. Now we're going to count. We're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I kind of feel like I'm on Sesame Street with all these counting. Okay. Let's see. Now you can see that it's with the right side of the stitches out like that. It's formed kind of a little cone shape, which is what we want, because that's going to be the top of our little cactus stalk where this guy's going to rest. Okay. I'm going to move that stitch marker up, and now that we've got 24 around, for the next 8 rounds, we're going to just single crochet in each stitch around. So this is the part where you can put on your podcast or listen to your favorite music, because you don't have to count or think. You can just do a single crochet in each one as you go around. And then when I have these, here's my preference. I'll show you. I'm going to get to the end of the round. Now, when I have a part in my amigurumi where I'm just doing single crochets for many, many rounds without any increasing or decreasing, and the round count always stays the same, it's easier for me, I find, if I just leave my stitch marker in place at the beginning of those repetitive rounds, rather than moving it up with every round, because then I can just go without moving the stitch marker. And I can also count, instead of counting stitches around, I can just count the rows. I can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as I go up. That might be a little more advanced if you're confident with, if you're feeling confident with the number of stitches you're doing, like you're not missing any. But yeah, I'm just gonna leave that in while I go. So So I just go to the next one and keep going, round and round. So rather than having you watch me do this for the next 20 minutes, I'll pause and then I'll show you the finished product. Alrighty, so I've finished all the way to round 13, and like I said, I like to leave my stitch marker in when I'm just doing regular rows, and then what I do is I count up like this. See, here's rounds 1 through 6, and then it goes 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Uh-oh, did I get too many? No, sorry, it should have been, I should have started with round 6 here. So it's here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And as you can see that as I complete a round, it kind of leans, the stitches kind of, because they're kind of offset, they build on each other at like bricks do, and so they kind of lean a little bit as they go up. So here's where I marked it, and then here's 8 rounds later, and it's not perfectly straight, it's just a little bit like italicized. All right, and then what it's going to look like is you're going to have your little moon resting on top of this stalk, like so. Also, and then, but it's not going to be round like this. What you're going to do is you are going to pinch it like so, like this. When you sew it to the pot and soil, you're going to pinch it like that, because that's how it looks in real life. Like so, and then you're gonna do that. All right, so let's get started with the next bit, which is the pot and soil.